Alright guys, welcome back to another video on the Super Duper World of Sports, and this is the top 3 Week 1 fantasy performances, for full PPR by the way, from every fantasy position. Let's get right into it. At quarterback, we have Patrick Mahomes of the Kansas City Chiefs, putting up 36.9 fantasy points in their great win against the Arizona Cardinals. Truly dominated, and it wasn't even really a chance for the Cardinals. Number 2 was Josh Allen of the Buffalo Bills. So first two, not really surprising. I mean, as you can see on number 3, I did not expect that. I don't know about you. Personally, I did not expect Carson Wentz to make it in the top 3. But about Josh Allen, in their blowout of the Rams, honestly, 31.48 fantasy points, had himself a great day, got everything he wanted. And at number 3, as we just talked about, Carson Wentz of the Washington Commanders put up 27.72 fantasy points. Absolute destruction. I mean, they didn't win by much. They only won by 6 points, 28-22 against the Jaguars. But Carson Wentz had his way. Running backs, Saquon Barkley went off against the Titans, the New York Giants against the Tennessee Titans. Of course, the Giants won with a missed field goal in the last second by the Titans kicker. 35.4 fantasy points for Saquon Barkley. Amazing stat line. And Jonathan Taylor is up next at number 2 of the Indianapolis Colts. He put up 27.5 fantasy points. Very, very good performance from him as well. And as you can see, number 3, DeAndre Swift of the Lions, who faced the Commanders, put up 26.5 fantasy points. Ceded some goal line work to Jamal Williams, of course, but he still managed to put up almost 27. Next up, we have Justin Jefferson at the wide receiver position, number 1 for the wide receivers. 39.4 fantasy points in an absolute just domination of the Packers. Usually Aaron Rodgers gets his way with the Vikings, but Justin Jefferson did not let that happen this time. Kirk Cousins was in connection with this man the whole game, and 184 yards and 2 touchdowns. Ridiculous. Cooper Kupp of the Los Angeles Rams at number 2 had 31.8 fantasy points in their loss to the Buffalo Bills. He was just about the only player on that team who showed up to play. I think the Super Bowl got to their head, man. Got to their heads. I think definitely that's an effect on them. That's at least one reason why they lost. And at number 3, Devontae Adams of the Las Vegas Raiders had 30.1 fantasy points in his debut with the Raiders. And his reunion with Derek Carr, his Fresno State reunion with Derek Carr, absolute beastly performance from Devontae Adams as well. As for the tight ends, Travis Kelce was number 1 of the Kansas City Chiefs, by the way. 26.1 fantasy points. Of course, we talked about how Patrick Mahomes did very good against the Cardinals. Travis Kelce also could not be stopped by the Arizona defense. Number 2, O.J. Howard, actually, of the Houston Texans. A pleasant surprise there, who had 17.8 fantasy points. Definitely earned. They tied the Colts. Sure, they tied the Colts. They kind of choked the lead, but it's the Colts, man. They held up pretty good against the Indianapolis Colts, and O.J. Howard was a big part of it. And at number 3, Taysom Hill, who is now actually for once registered as a receiving position. Now he's a tight end, officially, not a quarterback, of the New Orleans Saints, put up a pretty good 15.3 fantasy points. Pretty respectable score, I would say. So we should continue to see some pretty heavy involvement of him moving forward. As for the fantasy kickers, Younghoe Koo of the Atlanta Falcons put up 18 fantasy points. had plenty of field goal opportunities against the Saints, and definitely a nice outing for him. Younghoe Koo's always been that top tier level kicker for fantasy purposes. I think that should continue as long as the Falcons offense doesn't falter. And at number 2, we had Cade York, the rookie kicker for the Cleveland Browns. Kicker out of LSU, very good prospect, 16 fantasy points, and he even hit the game winner in week 1. So awesome performance from him. Really loved what I saw from this kid. And we have a 3-way tie for 3rd place. Chris Boswell of the Pittsburgh Steelers, Greg Joseph of the Minnesota Vikings, and Ryan Suckup of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers all put up 13 fantasy points. Of course, Chris Boswell in the Steelers win over the Bengals, Greg Joseph for the Vikings, and Ryan Suckup for the Buccaneers win against the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. All got decent opportunities to be able to capitalize on their kicking. And lastly, but not least, fantasy DSTs, defense and special teams. Pittsburgh Steelers came in at first place with 24 fantasy points, had a defensive touchdown, they had a blocked kick, they had it all, man. Bengals could not move the ball at all, it seemed like, and they shut them down. That's a well-deserved win for Pittsburgh. They fought hard for it. And yeah, number 2 is the Miami Dolphins DST, who had 18 fantasy points against the New England Patriots, familiar foe. Mac Jones could not get much going. He got injured, actually. Kind of a good way into the game. And number 3 was the Buffalo Bills defense. Trust, always known to be a pretty solid defense, especially for fantasy, who had 17 points this time around. And they had their way with the Rams, as we said earlier. Only Cooper Kupp was able to get anything going, but other than that, they shut them down. They got 17 fantasy points. And that's it, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Tried to make it a little shorter. Make it short and nice and short. I think it'll be around this length every time, the fantasy performances videos. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.